What is up, everyone? It is Mr. M, and welcome back to my channel. In the background, we're going to be blasting my favorite record from 2015. This is Ocean's 8 Alaska with Lost Isles. Hopefully you can hear it clearly enough, and this video is going to be my top 10 albums from 2018. Very hard to pick them, especially once I got to the top 5. But I said it in my last video, I'll say it in this one. This is my list based on my opinion. If you think a record should have been higher or you think a record should have made it, oh well, you can live with it. And if you can't, make your own list. No need to be an asshole and tell me about your opinion, because it's a top 10. I'm not saying any of these records are bad. It's just I like some records better than others. And that is how my list, and I'm sure how everyone's list gets made. So, kicking it off with number 10, Judas Priest with Firepower, put out on Epic Records. Now, the fact that these guys have been around for almost 50 years and are still putting out amazing records like this just shows that even though they're in their 60s and maybe even in their 70s, these guys can still write amazing stuff. This record, in my opinion, it's a real callback to their 80s style records like British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, stuff like that. And when I saw this album cover, I got reminded of Defenders of the Faith, which also is an incredible record. But with the music, Redeemer of Souls, their prior record, was not amazing. And this is definitely a huge step up. Like I said, bringing them back to those classic 80s records. The Lightning Strike, which is the first single off of this, that song alone was just so much better than anything that was on Redeemer of Souls. And then along with that, you got songs like Necromancer, the title track, Spectre, Flamethrower, 14 songs, and there's just so many good ones. It's hard to pick, it's hard to pick which song on here is the best. And at number 9, we have Wraith with Heed the Warning. This was put out on World War Now Records, which is a sister label to Black Market Metal label. And these guys play speed metal, thrash metal, crossover. Now, it's a very short record. It's just over 20 minutes with 8 songs. But there's not a single bad song on here. The opening track, which is the title track, Bastards, Fire, I Am Death. They also have a song called Lightning Strike, just like Judas Priest. Now, these guys, they also had a blackened element to it. They kind of sound like Toxic Holocaust as well, for a comparison. But, 8 songs, and their prior stuff was great. This stuff is even better, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Next up is a band that I completely forgot existed. This is Corpse Fucking Art with Splatterphobia. And I discovered these guys originally in like 2011 or 2012 when I was really first starting to get into death metal. And because I was being bombarded with so much new music, Corpse Fucking Art was just a band that they kind of fell off. Because I thought other bands were better, or just, like I said, because there was just so many bands and so much new music, I couldn't remember all of them. But the lead single, which is Tomator, that ended up on my suggested videos to watch on YouTube. And, that song was just so fucking heavy. And, it really set the tone for what Splatterphobia is. Along with that, you got the opening track, the title track, which I think that was the case for these last 2 records too. As well as Nightmare City, Black Sheep Terror, Satanic Barbecue, fucking Blood Knife Mirror. They also have a Cannibal Corpse cover, Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead. And though that cover is not as good as the original, the one thing I like is that the vocals are a bit louder in the mix. That was one of my complaints about some of the early Cannibal Corpse stuff, is the vocals are being low in the mix. And I know saying that, some people might think the vocals on this record are overpowered. They're not. They fit so well in the mix while you can still understand that there are vocals, it's not getting lost in the mix or anything. Next up, Number 7, Tomb Mold, Manners of Infinite Forms on 20 Bucks Spin. This is their second record, and they topped Primordial Malignity in every way with this record. The riffs are crushing. The overall song structures are incredible. You know, this band is, there's a lot of hype surrounding this band, and I know that may turn a lot of people off. I know it has turned a lot of people off, but don't let the hype kill it for this band. You know, they write incredible music, and if you're just ignoring these guys because there's a ton of hype around them, you're seriously fucking up. You know, songs like the title track, Blood Mirror, Chamber of the Sacred Utheka, you know, 7 songs. It's about 40 minutes, so I guess for only being 7 songs, it's towards the longer end of a death metal record. But, you know, it's still an incredible, filthy, dirty record overall. And if the, like I said, if the hype's turning you off, you're fucking up. Next up at number 6, Skinless with Savagery. This is their 6th record. These guys have been around for over 20 years, and they just keep getting better and better. The opening track, title track, which is the title track, fucking all 5 of my records, the opening track has been the title track. But the Savagery, the title track, it starts off with some like horror sample, and it really sets the tone for the record in terms of brutality. Because along with that, you got Skull Session, Exacting Revenge, Cruel Blade of the Guillotine. You've also got a couple of shorter songs that are instrumentals, Reversal of Fortune, and the closing track, The Hordes. And they also have a cover song on the deluxe version, which is High Rate Extinction, originally done by Crowbar. They made an already heavy song even heavier with that. And, you know, it's got that absolutely disgusting album artwork to accompany it. And if you're a fan of brutal death metal and you've somehow missed out on Skinless or Savagery, definitely give it a listen. You will not regret it. Next up is Boom Boom Room Side B by Palais Royale. Part 2 to the Boom Boom Room album. Side A was released in 2016. And basically, in terms of the amount of songs and the length of this record, it is a complete opposite of Side A. Now, that one had 13 songs, and then the deluxe version had 15, and it was about an hour long. This one has 8, and it's just under 30 minutes. And it's probably a good thing that it's that short, because Boom Boom Room Side A had a lot of filler songs, a lot of very easily forgettable songs. And this one, you know, every single song on here of the 8 is just incredible. They really stepped it up, especially on the singles, You'll Be Fine and Death Dance. You know, they topped all of the singles on the last album, in my opinion. And then you've also got Dying in a Hot Tub, which is my favorite song. Love the Void, and then the closing track, The Boom, which is basically just a piano instrumental with some samples over it. You know, these guys are going to be, if you like sort of like old school rock and roll, you know, if you like that type of stuff, you're going to like this band. And they're probably going to be putting out a new record next year. And if they keep it shorter, like this record, or make sure that every song is good instead of being filler, these guys are going to be a huge breakout in 2019. Now, I know I just showed it, but these next 4 records at one point were all number 1, and so it was very hard for me to actually pick which one was going to be number 1 and what was going to come after it. But at number 4, we have Idol by Horrendous. Put out on Season of Mist Records. This is their first record on that label after being on Dark Descent for their first 3. And Anaretta is an incredible record, and they somehow found a way to top it with Idol. You got songs like Soothsayer, The Idolator, which is probably where the album came from, Devotion, Blood for Ink. You got a couple instrumentals in here as well with Pre-Science and I think Threnody. And, you know, like I said, Anoretta was, I thought they weren't going to be able to top it, but somehow they did. They add some progressive elements into this as well, even more than on previous records. It was there, just not very enunciated, I guess. I don't think that's the right word for it. But they made a progressive death metal record, kind of in the veins of like the middle years of Death, when they were really starting to go towards a more progressive sound. And the reason this is at number 4 instead of maybe number 3 or number 2 is that last song, Obelisk, I think is how it's pronounced. It's 8 minutes long, and I feel like that's just a little bit too long. You know, it was a pain to kind of get through the first time, and though I don't think it's a bad song, if it was just a bit shorter, like maybe 5 minutes, you know, it would have been higher on my list. Next up is a band I talked about on my best EPs, demos video. This is Pale Waves with My Mind Makes Noises. In addition to putting out that EP, they put out this full-length album this year. These guys play... People label it so many different things. To me, it's a pop record, but people have called it indie, they've called it alternative. You know, they have a bunch of different labels for how this band sounds. The band they're compared to most is the 1975, which I can't back that up because I don't like the 1975 and I don't listen to them that much. But the comparison I came to was Against the Current. This is one of the few sort of mainstream pop bands that actually uses guitars and real instruments, and you really get that in songs like Drive and Black and Red and Television Romance. And there's also a lot of synthy type stuff in here, like you would expect from a pop record, with the song like Came In Close or Loveless Girl, She, and there's even an acoustic track, Carl, I Wonder What It's Like to Die, the closing track. And that song alone just sold the record for me, and it made... I feel like it brought this record together, you know. If they had ended it on a song that wasn't an acoustic song, it probably wouldn't have sounded as great. But yeah, if you like pop or indie or alternative, whatever, definitely give Pale Waves a listen. You know, I feel like they're going to be one of the bigger names in the music business come next year. Number 2 is Torture Rack with Malefic Humiliation. Put out on $20 spin, the CD version was, and then vinyl was Parasitic Records, and then cassette was Headsplit Records. So a joint release between 3 labels, and this is absolutely head-crushing, filthy, dirty, sewer-like death metal. And, you know, it's under 30 minutes, about 8 songs. You know, you got songs like Slave to the Savage, Found in Feces, Festering Castration. You know, a band like this, you pretty much know what you're gonna expect. You know, with extremely fucked up lyrics, brutally heavy music. You know, Torture Rack is one of the best death metal bands going in the underground. Now, hailing from, I think, Washington or Oregon. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's that area, which kind of makes sense because that is just a cesspool of a breeding ground for death metal right now. And if somehow you fucked up and did not hear this, pick this up, do yourself a favor. And at number 1, record of the year for me, Outer Heaven with Realms of Eternal Decay. Holy shit, what a record. I've heard about these guys for a while. I have their split that they did with Gatecreeper, Homewrecker, and Scorched. And this record tops everything that they have done previously. Now, when they first signed to Relapse Records earlier this year, I was a bit concerned after hearing the song that they released. The first song that they released after they announced their signing. It wasn't that good. But, you know, after hearing this record, these guys have basically cemented themselves as a staple in the underground metal scene. Now it's around 35 minutes. There are 10 songs. You got Vortex of Thought, What Lies Beneath, the closing track, Decaying Realms, Sacrificial Evolution. This is filled with riffs, breakdowns, slams, blast beats, fucking everything you could want in a death metal record. This fucking has it. And, you know, if, again, just like Torture Rack, just like any band I feel on my list, if you somehow did not know about Outer Heaven, fucking listen to Realms of Eternal Decay. Listen to their split with Homewrecker, Scorched, and Gatecreeper. You hopefully will not be disappointed. You know, this is just an absolutely filthy, crushing death metal record in a year that was filled with heavy death metal records. Now, I thought 2017 was great for death metal. No, 2018 turned out to be even better. And given what labels have been and bands have been announcing for next year, you know, 2019 is going to turn out to be an even bigger year with new records from Tomb Mold and Blood Incantation and plenty of other bands, Spirited Drifts. But yep, Realms of Eternal Decay by Outer Heaven, #1 album of the year for me. I know it made it high up on other people's year-end lists as well, and justifiably so. And if you're on the East Coast, now these guys are from Philadelphia, they play out in the East Coast a lot. Because of that, you know, make sure you go and see these guys live. Now, I've seen videos on YouTube, and obviously there's a difference between a video and actually being there in person, but you know, seeing those videos, they put on a killer show, so definitely go and see them live. And that is going to conclude my year-end list for 2018, as well as my videos for 2018, because obviously this is going up on the last day of 2018. So, thank you for watching. I'm going to have links to all these albums down in the description below if somehow you did miss them, or if you just want to see where you can buy them. Thank you for watching. Thanks for liking my videos. Thanks for subscribing and commenting, all that stuff. And until next time, Hails.